The plate struck the wall before Miriam Vale could step aside. It broke above the washstand, and a white shard cut the skin near her ear. The supper room went quiet. 40 faces turned toward her, then quickly turned away. Gideon Voss stood at the head of the long table, his thick hand still raised. "You will marry Silas Boone," he said, "or you will leave this house tonight with what you came in wearing." Miriam touched the warm line of blood on her neck. Her knees wanted to bend. She locked them straight. "No," she said. Gideon stared, as if the word had come from a chair. For 6 years, Miriam had cooked his meals, scrubbed his floors, changed sheets, carried coal, and kept his boarding house running. He had promised wages after her first winter. Then he said the cost of her room and food had eaten them up. Each month the debt grew. Silas Boone sat near the stove with both hands around a coffee cup. He owned the livery barn and smelled of horse sweat even on Sundays. Twice, he had cornered Miriam in the pantry and told her how easy her life would be once she learned not to argue. She had told Gideon. Gideon had laughed. Now Silas watched her with the calm look of a man, waiting for something already bought. Gideon came around the table. "You think you are too fine for him." Miriam said nothing. He caught her by the upper arm. "You have eaten my food, slept under my roof. I gave you a place when no one else would." "You gave me work," Miriam said, "and kept the pay." A few boarders looked down at their plates. Gideon slapped her hard enough to turn her toward the wall. Someone moved near the door. Nathan Reed stood there with fresh handbills under one arm. He ran the small print shop across the street. Quiet man. Brown coat, ink always caught in the lines of his fingers. He set the handbills on a chair. "That is enough," he said. Gideon turned. "This does not concern you." Nathan looked at Miriam. "Do you want to stay here?" The question was so plain that she almost did not understand it. Gideon tightened his grip. "She owes me." Nathan's voice did not rise. "I asked her." Miriam looked at the open door. Beyond it stood the street, the dark rail platform, and every reason a woman alone should be afraid. "No," she said, "I do not want to stay." Gideon released her so suddenly she stumbled. "Then get out." He pulled her brown coat from a peg and threw it through the doorway. It landed in the mud beside the steps. "Let hunger teach you manners," he said. There are people who know what it costs to say no when everyone around them expects surrender. Perhaps you have stood in a room where silence felt safer, yet you spoke anyway. Tell us in the comments if you believe a person's no should be enough. And subscribe if you come here for stories about ordinary courage that refuses to bow. Miriam walked outside. She did not hurry or wipe the blood from her neck. She bent, picked up her muddy coat, and shook it once. Nathan came out behind her. The door slammed. For a moment neither spoke. Mercy Crossing went on with its evening. A wagon rattled past. Near the depot, a man called for the last freight cart. Nathan picked a small piece of plate from her hair. He showed it to her before dropping it in the road. "I have a clean cloth at the shop," he said. "I do not need pity." "No, but you may need that cut cleaned." Miriam looked across the street at his narrow shop. A lamp glowed behind a faded sign that read Reed Printing. She had taken notices there for Gideon many times. Nathan had always spoken to her as if she were a customer, not a servant. That did not make him safe. It only made him harder to judge. "I have nowhere to sleep," she said. She hated how small the words sounded. Nathan rubbed his thumb against an ink stain. "Mrs. Bell rents the room above her sewing shop," he said. "Her last boarder left. I can ask if it is open." "With what money?" "I need help folding tomorrow's paper." Miriam gave him a sharp look. "That sounds like Charity wearing a work apron." "It is work. The pay is 75 cents. Mrs. Bell charges $50 for a night and breakfast. You know her price. My pressman slept there before his wife came west. Miriam pulled on the muddy coat. What happens after tomorrow? Nathan glanced back at the boarding house. Light filled its windows. Supper had begun again without her. Tomorrow can answer for itself, he said. That sounded like a man avoiding a promise. Still, he had not called her helpless. He had not offered his own room. He had not said she owed him for stepping through Gideon's door. Miriam crossed the street. The shop smelled of ink, paper, metal, and burnt coffee. Nathan lit another lamp and set a chipped basin on the work table. He poured water from a kettle, then placed a folded cloth beside it. He turned his back while she cleaned the cut. That small act unsettled her more than a grand kindness would have. Wooden type cases covered one wall. Bundles of paper stood beneath the window. A black iron press waited in the center of the room. On a shelf beside Nathan's hat lay a train ticket. Miriam could read the heavy printed words. Mercy crossing to Denver. The date was 2 days away. Nathan saw her looking. He slipped the ticket into his coat pocket. You are leaving, she said. I had planned to. For a visit. A job, better press, better pay. The answer left a cold place in her chest. She had known him through only a handful of short talks, yet his leaving made the room feel less solid. That explains the work, she said. You need someone until you go. I need someone tomorrow. What happens after that is not settled. You just said you had a job. I said I had planned to take it. Miriam watched him pour coffee. Men like Gideon spoke as if every choice had already been made. Silas spoke as if her future could be settled over supper. Nathan spoke as if choices could remain open. She did not know whether that was honesty or another trap. He pushed one cup toward her. No sugar, a little milk. Miriam looked at it. How do you know? You brought notices every Tuesday. Gideon took his black. You took yours that way. No one had remembered how she drank coffee since her mother died. She sat slowly. Nathan stayed on the other side of the table. He did not ask how badly Gideon had treated her. He drank from his own cup and straightened a stack of handbills. After a while, he said, Mrs. Bell will be closing soon. Miriam put down the cup. Then we should go. Mrs. Bell was a narrow woman with silver hair pinned tight. She opened her door with a candle in one hand and a sewing needle caught in the front of her dress. Her eyes went first to Miriam's cheek, then to the muddy coat. Nathan spoke before she could ask. Miriam needs a room. She will pay for tonight from wages earned at my shop tomorrow. Mrs. Bell looked at Miriam. Is that your agreement too? Miriam swallowed. Yes. Then come in. Nathan remained on the step. Mrs. Bell moved aside, but Miriam did not cross the doorway. You are not coming, she asked. It is not my room. She studied his face. What time tomorrow? 7, later if you need sleep. 7, I do not want favors added to the account. There is no account. There is always an account. Nathan took off his hat. The night wind moved his dark hair. Then keep your own, he said. Write down every hour, count every cent. If I ask more than we agreed, walk out. Miriam looked toward the print shop. Its lamp still burned across the street. A train whistle sounded beyond the last buildings. Why did you step in? She asked. Nathan looked toward the boarding house. Because everyone else stayed seated. It was not a fine answer. It did not ask for thanks. That was why she believed it. Miriam went inside. Mrs. Bell closed the door, leaving Nathan on the step. Upstairs, the room held one narrow bed, a washstand, and a chair with a folded quilt. Miriam set her muddy coat over the chair. Then she stood at the window and watched Nathan cross the empty street. He entered his shop and reached into his coat. Even from across the road, she saw the pale shape of the train ticket in his hand. He stood there a long time before putting it back on the shelf. Miriam touched the cut near her ear. At 7 in the morning, she would walk into his shop and earn 1 day of her own life. She did not know whether Nathan Reed would leave in 2 days. She only knew he had given her a choice before asking for anything in return. That was small. It was also the first thing that felt like freedom. Miriam woke before the church bell. For several breaths she did not know the ceiling above her. Then she saw the folded quilt, the plain washstand, and her muddy coat hanging over the chair. No one was pounding on the door. No one was calling her lazy for sleeping past 5. Mrs. Bell had left warm water outside the room. Beside it sat bread, 1 boiled egg, and a small twist of salt. Miriam carried the tray downstairs. "You paid for breakfast," Mrs. Bell said from behind a length of gray cloth, "so eat it." "I have not paid yet." "You will." Mrs. Bell noticed. She said nothing. At 7, the print shop door was unlocked. Nathan stood at the press with his sleeves rolled to his elbows. A line of black ink marked one cheek. "You are early," he said. "It is 7. The clock is 6 minutes slow." "Then your clock is wrong." Nathan looked up at it. That would explain several things. He showed her a stack of fresh sheets. The paper was called the Mercy Crossing Weekly. It held train times, cattle prices, church notices, and news from farms across 3 counties. "Fold once here," Nathan said. "Then again keep the edge even." Miriam folded 10 while he watched the press. On the 11th he said, "You have done this before." "No. You fold like you have." "I folded sheets at the boarding house, tablecloths, towels, anything Gideon could unfold and tell me to do again." Nathan's hand stopped on the press handle. Only for a moment. Then he said, "The papers do not complain." "Then I may prefer them." By 8, Miriam had folded half the stack. Nathan placed a tin cup beside her without speaking. "Coffee, no sugar, a little milk." She looked at him. He had already turned away. The shop grew busy after sunrise. A ranch hand came for sale bills. A church woman brought a pie supper notice. 2 boys pressed their faces against the window until Nathan sent them away with spoiled strips of paper. Each person looked at Miriam. Some nodded, some did not. Mrs. Holloway from the dry goods store stared at the bruise on Miriam's cheek, then at Nathan. "So it is true," she said. Nathan set a box of type on the counter. "That depends on what you heard." "I heard Gideon Voss put her out." "That part is true. And now she is here." Miriam placed another folded paper on the stack. "I am working," she said. Mrs. Holloway gave her a long look. "So I see." She paid and left. Miriam kept folding. "You did not have to answer," Nathan said. "I know." Near noon, the press belt slipped. Nathan reached toward it. Miriam caught his sleeve. "Stop." The wheel was still turning. He pulled back. The belt slapped the wood and fell loose. "You would have lost a finger," she said. "I have moved it while running before." "That does not make it wise." "No. You should tie back that sleeve." Nathan looked at the cuff she still held. Miriam let go. He rolled the sleeve higher. "Yes, ma'am." She expected mockery. There was none. Together they set the belt back in place. Nathan held the wheel while Miriam pulled the leather tight. Grease stained her fingers. "You know machines too?" he asked. "I know when a moving wheel can cut a hand." "That is useful knowing." Gideon had called her sharp when she warned him, difficult when she corrected a count, proud when she refused blame for another person's mistake. Nathan called her knowing useful. At noon, he took 2 wrapped parcels from a drawer. Mrs. Bell sent these. Both held cheese and bread. Miriam turned hers over. You paid her. No, she says I forget to eat when the paper runs. Do you? Most Thursdays. It is Friday. Nathan looked toward the calendar. That would explain several more things. She laughed before she could stop herself. It was one small sound. Still, it changed the room. Nathan did not smile as if he had won something. He only moved a chair so she could sit near the open door. They ate while freight cars clanged beyond the depot. What is in Denver? Miriam asked. A large newspaper, 6 presses, gas lamps over every workbench. You have seen it? No. Then it may have 5 presses and 1 bad lamp. He smiled. That is possible. Better pay. Nearly twice what I earn here. Why have you not left? Nathan folded the paper around his cheese. My father opened this shop. He died last winter. He rubbed the crease flat with his thumb. I thought selling it would be easy. No one wanted to buy. So Denver is the sensible choice. Yes. But you have not gone. No. The train ticket rested on the shelf above his hat. Miriam kept her eyes on the street. She understood rooms a person could not leave. She had not considered that a person might struggle to leave a room he loved. After lunch, Nathan showed her how to set type. The letters sat backward in their little boxes. Miriam worked slowly, finding each piece and setting it into the composing stick. Church supper, she formed. Then she saw she had placed the R upside down. She reached to remove it. Nathan stood beside her, not touching, only looking. You found it, he said. I made the error. Finding it is part of the work. Gideon had never allowed those 2 truths to stand together. Miriam fixed the letter. By late afternoon, her shoulders ached and her fingers were gray. She had folded 400 papers, set 3 notices, swept the floor and counted the coins twice. Nathan placed 75 cents on the counter. Miriam looked at the coins. You said 75. That is 75. You gave me food. Mrs. Bell gave us food. You taught me type. That helped the shop. You lost time. I gained 3 notices. I do not have to set tonight. Miriam picked up the coins one by one. They were warm from his hand. Gideon had often told her she should be grateful, grateful for a bed, grateful for scraps, grateful for work that never ended. Nathan gave her the agreed amount and asked for no gratitude. She closed her fist. I can come tomorrow, she said. Saturday is shorter. I can pay 50 cents. How many hours? 5. Then 50 is fair. He nodded. 7. Your 7 or the clock's 7. My 7, I fixed the clock. She looked up. It was 4 minutes fast. You made it worse. I made it different. Miriam shook her head, but her mouth would not stay stern. The door opened. Silas Boone filled the entrance. He removed his hat, though it did not make him polite. His eyes moved from Miriam's inked fingers to the coins in her hand. Gideon says you stole from him, Silas said. Nathan came from behind the press. Miriam did not move. What did I steal? 6 years of room and board, by the sound of it. That is not theft. He says you left owing $43. Nathan said, this is a print shop, Silas, not a collection room. Silas ignored him. You can come back tonight, he told Miriam. Gideon will forget the trouble if you agree to marry me. Miriam opened her hand, and placed the coins on the counter. Then she smoothed each one into a straight line. "No." Silas's jaw shifted. "You think this man will keep you?" Nathan took one step forward. Miriam raised her hand. He stopped. "I am not being kept," she said. "I am being paid." Silas looked around the narrow shop. "He will be gone by Sunday," he said. "Everyone knows it." The room seemed to tighten. Silas put on his hat. "When he leaves, Gideon will not take you back twice." He walked out. The bell struck above the door. Nathan stood very still. Miriam looked toward the shelf. The train ticket was gone. She did not ask where he had put it. Instead, she gathered her 75 cents and reached for her coat. "I will be here at 7, she said. Nathan's voice was quiet. "Miriam." She paused. "I have not decided about Denver." "That is your choice." "Yes." She opened the door. Cold air moved through the shop, lifting the corners of the fresh newspapers. For one day she had earned her own coins. She had eaten without permission. She had laughed once. She had told Silas no and watched a man beside her respect the word. It should have been enough. But as Miriam crossed toward Mrs. Bell's rooms, she heard the evening train call from the edge of town. And for the first time, she was afraid not of being forced to stay, but of someone choosing to leave. By Saturday morning, someone had written liar across the print shop window. The word was made with white soap. Each letter was large enough to read from the depot. Miriam stopped on the boardwalk. Nathan stood inside with a rag and a pail. He had already wiped away the first 2 letters. "Who did it?" she asked. "I did not see." "You know who sent them." "That is not the same thing." Miriam took the rag from him. "You will smear it if you wipe in circles." Nathan handed over the pail. She cleaned from the top down. The soap came away in pale streams, leaving the glass cloudy. People passed without looking at them. That was worse than staring. "What has Gideon told them?" Miriam asked. Nathan leaned one shoulder against the doorframe. "That you took money from the boarding house." "I never touched his cash box." "I know." "He will say you helped me." "He already has." Miriam stopped wiping. Nathan looked toward the depot. "He says I planned your leaving so you could take what you owed him." "What I owed him." He changes the words depending on who is listening. Miriam pressed the rag hard against the last white mark. Gideon had always known how to make a lie sound tidy. He removed the years of labor, the missing wages, the locked pantry, and the marriage he had tried to arrange. Then he held up one simple claim. She had taken what was not hers. People liked simple claims. The truth required them to admit what they had watched. "I should leave," Miriam said. Nathan opened the shop door. "You are here for work." "I am costing you work." "Not yet." A folded order sat on the counter. Mrs. Holloway had canceled 200 sale notices. The church committee had taken its pie supper handbill to a printer in another town. Nathan turned both papers face down. Miriam saw them anyway. "You are losing customers." "I have lost 2. Because of me." Because 2 people decided gossip was cheaper than sense. She folded the rag over the edge of the pail. "Do not turn this into fine words, Nathan." "I am not." "You have a place waiting in Denver. You could leave tomorrow and be done with all of this." He looked at her. "That choice is mine. And the harm is mine." "No, Gideon's choices belong to Gideon." Miriam almost laughed, though nothing was funny. For 6 years, every broken plate had somehow become her fault. Every late meal, every unhappy boarder, every bad mood Gideon carried down the stairs. Nathan would not let her carry this. She did not know what to do with hands that had suddenly been emptied. The morning work was slow. Only 3 customers entered. One wanted a train schedule. One paid for a death notice. The third was a ranch wife who kept her eyes on the floor and spoke in a whisper. "I need a card printed," she said. Nathan brought out a sample book. The woman did not look at him. "I would rather she do it." Miriam glanced up. Nathan moved aside without question. The woman's name was Ruth Calder. Her husband had died the week before, leaving her with 2 children and a farm she meant to keep. "I need people to know I am selling eggs and butter," Ruth said, "and that I will take sewing when there is time." Miriam found a clean sheet. What should the card say? Ruth worried the edge of one glove, something plain. Miriam wrote, "EGGS butter and mending. Ruth CALDER. North Road Farm." Ruth read it twice. "Do not put Widow Calder," she said. "I did not. Most men would." Miriam looked toward Nathan. He was sorting type at the far wall, giving them privacy. "He is not most men," Ruth said quietly. Miriam set down the pencil. Ruth's eyes moved to the fading bruise on her cheek. "My sister was married to a man like Silas Boone," she said. "She said yes because everyone told her no was too costly." Miriam waited. She lived only 4 more years. Ruth placed a coin on the counter. "I heard what Gideon said. I do not believe him." After she left, Miriam stood with the coin beneath her palm. One person believing her should not have mattered so much. It did. Nathan came to the counter. "The card is good," he said. "She asked for me. I heard. You could have been offended. I was busy. You were standing 6 feet away. Very busy." Miriam gave him the written card. Their fingers touched at the corner. Neither moved at once. Then the front door opened, and they stepped apart. Mrs. Bell entered carrying a covered basket. "I have brought stew," she said, "before either of you forgets what day it is." "It is Saturday," Miriam said. Nathan looked at the clock. "Are we certain?" Mrs. Bell placed the basket on the work table. "I have also heard that Miss Vale stole $43, 3 silver spoons, a bolt of cloth, and Gideon Voss's mother's wedding ring." Miriam stared at her. "Gideon's mother is alive." "Yes, she lives in Iowa and still wears the ring." Nathan lifted the basket cover. "That part weakens his account." Mrs. Bell slapped his hand away from the bread. "The lie is growing because no one has stopped it," she said. "What do you suggest?" Miriam asked. "Print the truth." Nathan's face changed. Only slightly, but Miriam saw it. "No," he said. Mrs. Bell folded her arms. "You own a newspaper. I will not use it to settle a private score." It stopped being private when Gideon carried it into every store in town. Nathan looked at Miriam. "What happened to her is hers to tell, not mine to print." Mrs. Bell's expression softened. Miriam looked at the press. Nathan could have filled the next paper with every ugly fact. He could have made himself her defender and Gideon the enemy. People would have bought copies. Some would have praised him. He had refused because her pain did not belong to him. That truth was quiet, but it mattered. Respect is not speaking for someone in a louder voice. It is leaving room until they are ready to speak for themselves, and that is why stories like this belong here. "I do not want it printed," Miriam said. Mrs. Bell nodded. "Then it will not be." They ate stew from tin bowls at the work table. Nathan tore the bread into 3 equal pieces. He gave Miriam the middle one, which had the softest part. She noticed. That afternoon, he taught her to lock a full line of type into the frame. She tightened the screws, tested the edges, and carried the form to the press. "You trust me with this?" she asked. "You said it." "That does not answer the question." "Yes," he said, "I trust you with it." The words entered her more deeply than they should have. She pulled the lever. The press came down with a heavy, certain sound. When she lifted it, Ruth Calder's card appeared in clean black letters. Miriam held the first copy by its edges. She had made something that said exactly what a woman wanted said, no more, no less. Nathan stood beside her. "Well," he asked. "The R is a little light. You notice everything. Someone should." He smiled. Near closing time, a boy from the depot brought a telegram. Nathan read it beside the window. Miriam watched his eyes move across the page. "Denver?" she asked. He folded the telegram once. "They need my answer tonight." The room seemed colder. "What will you say?" Nathan looked at the press his father had left him, then at the canceled orders on the counter, then at Miriam. "I do not know." She turned away before her face could answer for her. On the shelf, the train ticket waited beneath his hat. "You should take the better job," she said. "That sounds like Gideon deciding what is best for someone else." "I am not ordering you." "No, you are making it easy for me to leave." Miriam picked up a broom. "You were leaving before I came here." "Yes. And now the town is turning against you." "Some of it." "You could lose this shop." "I could." She swept one clean line across the floor. Nathan took the broom gently from her hands. "Look at me." She did. "I will not stay because I think you need saving," he said, "and I will not leave because Gideon wants me gone." Miriam's throat tightened. "Then why would you stay?" Nathan's hand remained on the broom handle between them. He seemed ready to answer. A stone struck the front window. The glass cracked from corner to corner. Outside, boots ran down the alley. Nathan moved toward the door, but Miriam caught his sleeve. This time the press was still. "Do not chase them," she said. He looked at her hand. She let go slowly. On the cracked glass, one thin line crossed the place where the word liar had been. Nathan closed the door and turned the lock. The telegram remained unanswered on the counter. The telegram stayed on the counter until the lamp burned low. Nathan swept the broken glass into a wooden box. Miriam held the frame steady while he covered the cracked pane with brown paper and flour paste. Neither spoke about Denver. The shop felt smaller with the window hidden. When the last strip was pressed flat, Nathan washed the paste from his hands. "You should go back to Mrs. Bell's before it gets later," he said. Miriam looked at the locked door. "Will you sleep here?" "The press needs tending," he said. "No, it does not." He meant to guard the shop. "You think they will come back?" "I think Gideon likes other men to do his dirty work." Miriam picked a sliver of glass from the counter. "And you still will not print what he did?" "No. Even now." Nathan met her eyes. "Not unless you ask me to." She set the glass in the box. For years, people had used her silence as proof that nothing was wrong. Nathan let the silence remain hers, even when speaking might save him. "I am not asking," she said. "Then I will not." Mrs. Bell came near 9, carrying a broom handle like a club. "Your paper window is crooked," she told Nathan. "That is the fool's fault who broke it." Mrs. Bell touched Miriam's arm. "Come along." Miriam followed her outside, then turned back. Nathan stood in the doorway beneath the faded sign. "Answer the telegram," she said. His face gave nothing away. You should not lose Denver because I walked into your shop. He leaned one hand against the frame. Good night, Miriam. It was not an answer. The next morning was Sunday. Mrs. Bell went to church. Miriam stayed behind and mended the tear in her coat. Her needle paused when the train whistle sounded, then moved again. At noon, she crossed to the print shop carrying a jar of Mrs. Bell's leftover stew. The front door was open. Nathan stood on a stool, removing the brown paper from the window. A new pane leaned against the wall. Where did that come from? Miriam asked. Calder Farm. Ruth brought you glass. Her barn had a spare pane. Miriam set down the jar. She cannot afford gifts. She wants 100 more cards at the usual price, Nathan said. She was firm. Miriam ran her finger along the clean edge of the glass. Did you answer Denver? Yes. Her hand stopped. What did you say? I asked for one more week. Miriam turned. Why? To settle the shop. That sounds like leaving. It may be. She folded her hands so he would not see them tighten. Then we should make the week useful. Nathan studied her face, but he did not press. They spent Sunday repairing the window. He held the pane while Miriam tapped in the small nails. Once, his hand covered hers to stop the hammer from slipping. He moved it away at once. Sorry, he said. You kept me from breaking the glass. I still should have warned you. Miriam looked at him. You apologize for touching a hand. When the hand is not mine. She lowered the hammer. Silas Boone had once gripped her wrists and laughed when she told him to let go. Gideon had called her complaint foolishness. Nathan had touched her for one breath to keep the hammer straight, then asked forgiveness. It is all right, she said. He nodded and reached for the putty knife. The new glass brightened the shop and showed every speck of dust. Miriam took up a rag. Nathan laughed softly. You see one clean window and decide the whole place has failed. I see 5 years of dirt. 3. That is not a defense. They worked until the church bell rang again. Then Nathan warmed the stew, and they ate beside the press. What will you do if I leave? He asked. The question came without warning. Miriam set down her spoon. Find work. Where? I do not know. Mrs. Bell says the dry goods store may need help. Mrs. Holloway canceled her order because of Gideon. She also asked Mrs. Bell whether you can keep figures. Miriam looked toward the repaired window. People like to know whether a woman is useful before deciding if she is wicked. Nathan rubbed a thumb over a nick in his bowl. You are useful. I know. The answer surprised both of them. Miriam sat straighter. I know how to run a kitchen for 30 people. I know what flour should cost in winter and how long coal lasts if the stove door fits. I know which boarders pretend to forget their bills. I can sew a torn sheet so it holds. I can set type. Slowly. Not that slowly. I notice errors. Yes. I can keep accounts better than Gideon. Nathan's mouth moved at one corner. That I believe without seeing. She looked down at her hands. I have never said those things aloud. Why not? No one asked what I could do. They only told me what I owed. Nathan moved the bread plate closer to her. Then say them again when Mrs. Holloway asks. Monday brought more customers than Saturday. Ruth Calder collected her cards and ordered a small notice for the newspaper. A farmer paid Nathan to print labels for jars of honey. Mrs. Bell sent 3 sewing customers across the street to wait, and each left with a copy of the weekly under one arm. By midday, the shop sounded alive. He took one drink and made a face. You ruined it, he said. You drink it black. I do. You remembered mine. I am more observant before noon. She poured him a fresh cup. Their fingers brushed around the handle. This time neither apologized. Near 3, Mrs. Holloway entered. She carried the canceled order in her hand. I was hasty, she said. Nathan waited. Mrs. Holloway looked at Miriam. Gideon Voss says you kept his accounts. I kept the house book, food, coal, rooms, and unpaid bills. Can you add a column without losing the first number? Yes. Can you write a clear hand? Miriam took a pencil and copied the first line of the sale notice on a scrap. Mrs. Holloway examined it. My clerk is leaving to care for her sister, she said. I need help for 3 afternoons, perhaps longer. Miriam looked at Nathan. He was adjusting a roller and gave no sign that the decision belonged to him. It did not. What is the pay? Miriam asked. Mrs. Holloway named an amount. Paid each Saturday. Yes. And no charge taken for meals I do not eat. Mrs. Holloway's cheeks colored. No charge. I will begin tomorrow. Mrs. Holloway placed the old order on the counter. I will need the notices after all. When she left, Nathan said, You did not thank me. Miriam looked at him sharply. Then she saw the quiet humor in his face. No, she said, I did not. Good. She smiled and returned to the typecase. That evening, Gideon Voss came in alone. He closed the door behind him. The shop went still. Nathan stepped away from the press, but Miriam spoke first. What do you want? Gideon's eyes moved over the new window, the busy counter, and the apron tied around her waist. I came to offer Sense one last chance, he said. You offered marriage to Silas. That was not Sense. You are making yourself cheap in front of this town. Miriam felt the old fear rise. It knew his voice. It knew how to lower her eyes before his anger sharpened. She kept them level. I have 2 jobs, she said. A room I pay for, and 75 cents that you cannot touch. Gideon's face tightened. You think this printer will protect you? Nathan did not answer. Miriam did. I did not ask him to. Gideon took one step closer. When he boards that Denver train, you will learn what your pride bought. Miriam looked at Nathan. He stood beside the press with ink on his hands. For the first time, she saw fear in his face. Not fear of Gideon. Fear that she believed him. Gideon smiled as if he had found the tender place. Then he reached into his coat and laid Nathan's train ticket on the counter. I found this outside your door, he said. Seems the whole town should know how long his courage lasts. Nathan stared at the ticket. Miriam did not ask how Gideon had gotten it. She only saw the printed destination and the date. Tomorrow. Gideon turned and left. The bell gave one small sound behind him. Nathan reached for the ticket. Miriam placed her hand over it first. You told me you asked for a week. I did. The ticket says tomorrow. That was the old date. Then why did you keep it? Nathan looked at her hand, covering his way out. Because I had not yet decided what it meant. Outside, the evening train gave a long, low whistle. Miriam lifted her hand. The ticket remained between them. The ticket stayed on the counter all night. Nathan did not touch it again. Miriam did not ask another question. They finished the last order in silence. At the door, Nathan said, the date was never changed because the railroad wanted a fee. Miriam kept her hand on the latch. I wrote Denver and asked for 1 week, he said. They agreed. The old ticket could still be used tomorrow if I chose to go. So Gideon told the truth. He told one piece of it. That is how he does things. Nathan looked at the ticket. I should have told you. Yes. The word hurt him, she saw it. Still she left. Mrs. Bell was pinning a hem when Miriam came upstairs. Nathan may leave tomorrow, Miriam said. May. He kept the ticket. Mrs. Bell threaded her needle again. A ticket is not a man's feet. It means he wanted a way out. Most people do. Miriam pulled off her coat. You learned to watch doors because Gideon controlled every one of them, Mrs. Bell said. Nathan did not control this one. Do not punish him for leaving it open. Miriam slept badly. At dawn, men's voices carried from the street. 3 shopkeepers stood outside Reed Printing. Gideon was with them. Sela's Boone leaned against a hitching rail. Nathan stood in his doorway. Mr. Pike, who owned the feed store, held a paper. We are asking for a simple thing, Pike said. Let the woman go and this trouble ends. Miriam stopped inside Mrs. Bell's doorway. What trouble? Nathan asked. Broken windows, lost orders, folks arguing over a private matter. Gideon made it public. Gideon lifted both hands. I have asked only that what is mine be returned. Miriam stepped into the street. I am not yours. No one answered. Silas pushed away from the rail. You took lodging and food. I worked for both. Gideon says otherwise. Gideon lies. The word struck harder than a shout. Gideon smiled, then prove it. Every eye turned toward Miriam. There were no wage slips, no signed agreement, only her word. Nathan came down 1 step. She does not have to prove she belongs to herself. Pike lowered the paper. Nathan, no one is saying she belongs to anybody. You asked me to send her away, so the men troubling my shop will stop. We are asking you to be practical. Nathan looked at each man. No. Pike sighed. Then we will take our printing elsewhere. That is your choice. You may lose the shop. That is my choice. Gideon looked at Miriam. Hear that? He makes himself noble while you ruin him. Nathan's jaw tightened. Go inside, he told her quietly. No. Miriam. I said no. He stopped. She walked to the print shop and stood beside him, not behind him. Gideon watched them. The harvest supper is tonight, he said. Half the county will be there. I will tell them what kind of woman hides in a bachelor's shop and calls stolen labor freedom. Mrs. Bell came out carrying her broom handle. You will tell them anything that keeps them from looking at you, she said. Gideon tipped his hat and left with Sela's. The shopkeepers followed more slowly. Inside, Nathan took the Denver telegram from a drawer. You should accept, Miriam said. We had this talk. No, before I feared you would leave. Now I am telling you to. That does not make it different. You will lose everything your father built. My father built a print shop. He did not build a cage. You owe me nothing. I know. You have known me 5 days. I know that too. Miriam pressed both palms against the counter. Then, why are you doing this? Nathan unfolded the telegram. Because the first time Gideon struck you, the room stayed seated. Now the town is asking me to sit down too. That is not an answer about me. No, he said, it is an answer about me. He wrote across the telegram, folded it, and called to a depot boy. Take this to the telegraph office. When the boy ran off, Miriam asked, What did you say? Nathan slipped the train ticket into his coat. I said no to Denver. Her breath caught. You had no right. It was my offer. You did it because of me. I did it because I do not want that life more than I want this one. This shop may fail. Yes. The town may not come back. Yes. And what happens when you resent me? Nathan moved closer, then stopped before the space between them disappeared. I cannot promise the shop survives, he said. I cannot promise what this town thinks tomorrow. His voice softened. But I can promise I will not turn my choice into your debt. Miriam looked down. Gideon had offered certainty, as long as she surrendered the right to name the cost. Nathan offered no certainty. Only honesty. That frightened her more. It also made her want to believe him. By evening, lanterns hung outside the meeting hall for the harvest supper. Wagons filled the road. Music came through the open doors. Miriam stood in Mrs. Bell's room, wearing the clean brown dress she had bought with her first full week's pay. You do not have to go, Mrs. Bell said. If I stay away, Gideon speaks into an empty chair. He may shame you in front of everyone. He has done that before. This time, Nathan will be there. Miriam looked at herself in the mirror. A person can survive being hated by someone cruel. Being seen by someone kind is a different danger. Tonight, Miriam's name, Nathan's shop, and the choice he had made were all at stake. Stay close, because she was about to walk into the room that had once watched her fall, and this time no one knew whether they would stand with her or turn away again. Nathan waited below. The train ticket made a pale square beneath his coat. You kept it, Miriam said. Yes. Why? Because I need to do one thing with it. They crossed the street together. At the muddy edge of the road, he offered his arm but did not take hers. Miriam chose to place her hand there. Inside the hall, tables stood along the walls. Roasted meat, bread, and preserves covered them. A fiddle stopped when Miriam entered. Then voices began again, too quickly. Nathan saved her a chair beside Mrs. Bell. He brought coffee and remembered the milk. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then Gideon rose and struck a spoon against his glass. I had not planned to speak, he said. Mrs. Bell muttered, liar. Gideon smiled at the room. For years, I fed and sheltered a woman with no family willing to claim her. I offered her a respectable marriage. In return, she abandoned her duty and carried her shame into another man's business. Miriam's fingers tightened around her cup. Perhaps Nathan Reed enjoys playing rescuer, Gideon continued. Perhaps he expects a different payment. A few people looked away. Nathan began to rise. Miriam touched his sleeve. Not yet. She set down her cup and stood. You said I have no family willing to claim me, she said. Gideon spread his hands. That is the truth. No, you want someone to claim me because you cannot imagine a woman belonging to herself. A woman near the back whispered, good. Miriam went on. I cooked your meals, kept your rooms, washed the sheets, bought the coal, counted every bill. You promised wages and changed the account each time I asked. You were repaying my kindness. Kindness does not grow interest. A few men lowered their eyes. Gideon pointed at Nathan. And what do you call this? You moved from one man's roof to another man's hand. Miriam felt Nathan beside her. Waiting. Not speaking for her. She looked at him. Stand, she said. Nathan rose. Show them. He placed the train ticket on the nearest table. This was for Denver, he said. A better job, better pay. I was meant to leave. Gideon laughed. There you see. Nathan kept his eyes on Miriam. I turned it down today. The laugh died. Why? Someone asked. Not because Miriam asked me to stay. She asked me to go. Nathan placed 2 fingers on the ticket. I stayed because a town that asks a woman to return to the man who struck her is not a town I am ready to leave unchanged. No one moved. Gideon stepped forward and snatched the ticket. He tore it once. The sound was small. He dropped both pieces at Miriam's feet. There, he said, now neither of you has a choice. Nathan looked down, then at Miriam. She bent and picked up both halves. No, she said. Her voice carried to the back wall. Now everyone can see the choice he already made. The two torn halves of the ticket rested in Miriam's palm. No one in the meeting hall spoke. Gideon looked around as if waiting for someone to laugh with him. No one did. Ruth Calder rose from the back table. I ordered cards from Miss Vale, she said. She did the work well and I paid the price asked. Mrs. Holloway stood next. She keeps my figures 3 afternoons a week. I have found no coin missing and no number wrong. A murmur moved through the room. Gideon's face darkened. That proves nothing about what she owes me. It proves what she is worth when someone pays her, Mrs. Bell said. Mr. Pike cleared his throat. He had been one of the men outside the print shop that morning. Now he would not meet Miriam's eyes. My wife says the boarding house meals were late twice this week, he said. A few people turned toward him. Pike shifted his feet. I suppose that tells us who was doing the work. Gideon struck the table with his fist. She came to me with nothing. Miriam closed her fingers around the torn ticket. I came with 2 hands, she said. You used them for 6 years. Silas Boone pushed through the chairs. This has gone far enough. He reached for Miriam's wrist. Nathan moved, but Miriam was quicker. She stepped back and lifted her hand beyond Silas's reach. No. Silas stopped. The word was not loud. It did not need to be. Ruth Calder came to stand on Miriam's left. Mrs. Bell moved to her right, broom handle still tucked beneath one arm. Then Mrs. Holloway left her table and joined them. Silas looked at the women, then at the men who were watching. His hand fell. Gideon's power had always depended on a room choosing comfort over truth. Miriam could see the moment that comfort broke. Not all at once. One chair scraped back, then another. People began moving away from Gideon's table. He stared at them as if betrayal had entered through the floor. You will regret this, he told Miriam. She opened her hand and looked at the ticket pieces. No, she said, I have spent enough time regretting your choices. Gideon left the hall alone. Silas followed several steps behind, no longer walking like a man whose future had been promised to him. The fiddle player waited until the door shut. Then he lifted his bow. The music began again, uncertain at first, and the room slowly returned to breathing. Nathan looked at Miriam. Are you all right? She almost gave the old answer. Fine. Instead, she said, my hands are shaking. He glanced at them, mine too. She noticed then that they were. That made her smile. Nathan did not ask for the ticket. He did not ask what her stand beside him meant. He only carried their coffee back to the table and pulled out her chair. Miriam sat. For the rest of the evening, people came to speak with her. Some offered praise that arrived too easily. Some gave apologies that came too late. Miriam accepted what felt honest and let the rest pass. Mr. Pike promised to bring his feed store orders back to the shop. You should do that only if the work is good, Miriam said. He nodded, fair enough. A woman from the North Road asked whether Miriam could print notices for a quilting sale. A rancher wanted labels for seed sacks. The church committee quietly returned its pie supper order. Nathan wrote each request in a small book. He did not look surprised when people spoke to Miriam first. Miriam kept the torn train ticket in her pocket. Outside, frost had silvered the boardwalk. Nathan walked beside her toward Mrs. Bell's rooms. At the sewing shop door, Miriam stopped. "You said you stayed because you wanted this life," she said. "Yes. Does this life include me?" Nathan took off his hat. "I hope it does." That is not a clear answer. He looked down at the brim in his hands. "I do not want to ask too much while you are still learning what it means to choose. You keep deciding when I am ready to choose." His eyes lifted. Miriam's heart beat hard, but she did not look away. "Ask me something small," she said. Nathan thought for a moment. "Will you have breakfast with me tomorrow?" "At the shop?" "At the hotel dining room, where neither of us has to cook." Miriam considered it longer than necessary. "Yes." Nathan smiled. 7:30, your clock cannot be trusted. The next morning, he was waiting at 7:20. Over breakfast, they spoke about ordinary things, the price of paper, Mrs. Bell's habit of hiding needles in her cuffs, whether the shop needed a new sign. Miriam ate the whole slice of bread. She did not save any in her pocket. Winter settled over Mercy Crossing. The print shop did not fail. It came close once, when a shipment of paper was delayed and Nathan had to use the back of old handbills for proof sheets. Miriam found 3 customers who paid early. Nathan repaired a rancher's account book in exchange for a stack of clean paper. They worked side by side. 3 mornings a week, Miriam opened the shop while Nathan collected news near the depot. 3 afternoons, she kept figures at the dry goods store. On Fridays, Ruth Calder brought eggs and stayed for coffee. People began saying Miriam at the print shop, instead of the woman Gideon put out. The first time she heard it, she pretended not to. Nathan heard it too. He only set her coffee beside the typecase. Gideon never apologized. He sent one message through Mr. Pike, saying Miriam could return if she admitted her mistake. She sent no answer. Silas stopped waiting outside the sewing shop. By spring, he sold the livery barn and moved east. Miriam felt no triumph when she heard. Only space. Nathan courted her slowly. He walked her home but never assumed the right to enter. He brought her a new pair of work gloves after ink stained through the old ones. When she said they were too costly, he showed her the shop account and entered them as supplies. She laughed. One evening, while they set the next paper, the lamp began to sputter. Miriam trimmed the wick. Nathan was unusually quiet. "What is it?" she asked. He took the 2 torn halves of the train ticket from the drawer. She had given them to him weeks before, not knowing why he wanted them. He placed them side by side on the counter. "It was." "No, it only proves I did not board one train." Miriam waited. Nathan touched the ragged tear. "Staying is what comes after." He looked around the shop. At the press, the clean window, and the chair he always moved near hers when they ate. Then he looked at her. "I love you, Miriam." She went still. "I am not asking because I helped you," he said, "and I am not asking because the town expects an answer. You have not asked anything yet." His mouth softened. "Will you marry me?" Miriam looked at the ticket. Once it had frightened her because it meant he could leave. Then it had comforted her because he had not. Now it seemed smaller than the mornings, the shared meals, the wages counted honestly, and every time he had accepted her no without punishment. She turned the ticket pieces face down. "Yes," she said, "I will." Their wedding was held in the print shop at the start of summer. Mrs. Bell made Miriam's dress. Ruth brought eggs for the supper. Mrs. Holloway closed her store for half a day, though she complained about it until the ceremony began. Mr. Pike stood near the repaired window and tried not to cry. Nathan wore a coat without ink on it for nearly an hour. After the vows, he handed Miriam a new shop sign. Reed and Vale Printing. She ran her fingers over the black letters. "You put my name second," she said. "I thought alphabetical order might keep the peace. It will do for now." Years later, before sunrise, the shop lamp still came on first in Mercy Crossing. The press moved with its steady iron sound. Miriam tied newspaper bundles while Nathan poured 2 cups of coffee. Outside, a train called from the depot. Neither looked toward it. The first customers entered as the sky began to brighten. "Morning, Miriam," they said. She answered by name. Then Nathan passed close, and she reached for his ink-marked hand. Not because she needed rescue. Not because she owed him. Because it was hers to take and his to offer. The press turned again. And in the warm shop with her name above the door, Miriam Vale belonged first to herself, and then, by choice, beside the man who had never asked her to be less.